I forgot about the time. Okay, so I'll show you a picture. This is my dad, and he's holding my oldest sister in this picture. And this is my dad holding my youngest sister in this picture. This is the year 1985, right before he dropped dead of a massive heart attack at the age of 42. And I'm 37. And what I'm trying to tell you is that I wouldn't be here right now telling this to you unless I really believed that it was the absolute healthiest thing for me, and if I didn't think that it would really help you. So I'm a sold-out believer. And there are other people where we get our health advice. We get these people on the top that represent the physicians, our physicians, and the health authorities. And the people on the bottom represent the media and advertising. And we get so much conflicting advice. And I'm sure my advice conflicts with everything you've heard for 30 years. But you know, it's starting to the tide's starting to kind of turn. But I want to tell you this. As far as your health goes, just like Dr. Helton said, you know, only you can know the answer. And only from your own experience. So if you wonder, you know, what to believe on TV, what to believe with your doctor, only you can know the real answer. You can know what works for you. If it works for you to get your blood pressure down and get yourself off your diabetes medications and lose the weight and you feel better and you have more energy, then that's what's the real answer for you, not just what you see on TV. And I'd like to talk first about your doctor because basically there are two kinds of doctors in the world. There are either doctors who have had a personal experience with the power of a low carbohydrate, high fat diet, and those who haven't. And your doctor is intelligent, he's well trained, he has a lot of experience, and your doctor cares about you. But your doctor wasn't trained on diet. And if your doctor had an experience, if your doctor knew that changing your diet to a low carbohydrate, high fat diet would help you get rid of your pills and get rid of your diseases and get better, then your doctor would be one of these people. He would be someone like me. He would be a sold-out believer out trying to preach it in the streets. So I don't blame your doctor because your doctor was not trained in this. You know what they taught us in medical school was that if patients would lose weight, a lot of their medical problems would go away, but they can't lose weight, so don't even try. You know why they can't lose weight? Because the diet they taught us to give to people for weight loss was a low-fat, high-carb diet. And of course they can't lose weight. That's what makes people fat. So it's not your doctor's fault. If you need a doctor here in town, somebody to walk you through your health journey, call Dr. Ben Edwards. His number 771-1160. And they don't just do low carbohydrate, anti-inflammatory diet. They do a lot of stuff with probiotics, nutrients, and other therapies that aren't offered at most doctors' offices. I met with him and I spoke with him for over an hour, and he tells a lot of stories about patients' lives who are transformed. And in the morning meeting, there was a lady who sat right over here, and she came from Midland to the conference. And the reason she came was that she had been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which is something that there's no cure for fibromyalgia. She also had depression. She was on multiple antidepressants, and she had taken, she was on pills for blood pressure and something else. And at the health food store, somebody told her, all of those things mixed together, you might be gluten intolerant. Why don't you try and go gluten-free? And so she went gluten-free, and all the medicines are gone. And the fibromyalgia is gone. So, as a physician, we're taught, if you have fibromyalgia, here's a pill. If you have diabetes, here's a pill. And what Dr. Edwards does, and what I'm trying to help you do, is get to the root of the problem, rather than just the pills. Next, we'll talk about these people, the media. And the funny thing about the media is that you end up with a headline like this: eggs linked to diabetes. But you know what the headline says tomorrow? Eggs improve glucose control. So are eggs good or bad for diabetes? The next day there's the headline: processed meats linked to cancer. And then a headline that says, hot dogs may prevent cancer. These are all real headlines that were pulled off the internet. Real headlines from the media. And this guy, whose picture's in the top right-hand corner, his name is Tom Naughton. And he did this video called Science for Smart People. It's available on his Fathead website. And I would recommend everybody to just Google Tom Naughton Science for Smart People. I think it's listed in your handout. And he tells you why the media hypes headlines. That's because there are population-based studies where they study a population. Population-based studies show associations. They show things that are associated together. But a population-based study can never show causation. If they wanted to do a study that showed that eggs cause diabetes, then they'd have to do like a 20-year study of feeding one group of people a dozen eggs a day and another group of people no eggs. So there are contradictory headlines every other day from the media because they're trying to sell media time. They're trying to sell papers. They want you to watch. And so if they give you eggs cause diabetes and eggs cure diabetes the next day, you're going to have some cognitive dissonance. That's not going to make sense. So you're going to watch the story because you thought eggs cured diabetes. So the more they confuse you, the more you tune in. So I'm asking you to tune out and listen to your own body. Listen to your own results. Also in this video, Science for Smart People, he explains what clinical trial results actually mean. And this is one of his slides from his presentation where they talk about the Lipitor clinical trials. In the Lipitor clinical trials, for 10 years, they took men at high risk for a heart attack, and they treated one group with Lipitor and the other group with a placebo, which is a fake pill. And in the Lipitor group, 2 men out of every 100 had a heart attack. In the placebo group, 3 men out of every 100 had a heart attack. So the difference is 1. 3 minus 2 is 1. But that's not how the results are reported. The results are actually reported as what's called relative risk reduction. And to calculate relative risk reduction, that equals 1 minus the smaller number divided by the bigger number. Okay? Let me go back. So basically, in the study, if you took 100 men with multiple risk factors for heart attack and gave them Lipitor every day for 10 years, you would prevent 1 heart attack. And then they're going to calculate the relative risk reduction, which is 2 divided by 3, which equals 0.64, and 1 minus 0.64 equals 0.36, which is 36%. So the way that this clinical trial is reported and advertised is this. Lipitor reduces the risk of heart attack by 36%. The problem with this headline, or this advertisement, is that if it reduces the risk of heart attack by 36%, it kind of gives you the impression that 1 in 3 men who take Lipitor and are at high risk for a heart attack are benefiting. But the truth is, we just ran the numbers. We did the numbers. And you can look it up for yourself. 1 in 100 men who take Lipitor for 10 years actually benefit from taking the drug. And so these are all true, and they're all different ways of stating the same information. Lipitor reduces the risk of heart attack by 36%. That's true, calculated as a relative risk reduction. Or, for every 100 men at high risk for a heart attack who take Lipitor every day for 10 years, 1 heart attack is prevented. That's also true. It's also true to say this drug has been found to benefit 1% of men who take it. And it's also true to say 1 heart attack is prevented for every 365,000 doses of Lipitor taken. Because that's 100 men, 365 days a year for 10 years. So I'm asking you not to rely on the advertisements on TV that say take this pill, talk to your doctor, not to rely on the media, and instead rely on your own experience. I don't want you just to believe me either. I want you to believe what your body tells you. I want you to believe your own results. Do your own reading, listen to your own body, and be convinced by your own results, just like I was. Because I didn't actually read any books about low-carb dieting until after I lost the weight. Because I found it so easy, I was like, how come nobody told me about this? I was like, this totally works and I feel better. I feel better and I look better and I'm healthier. How come nobody told me about this? And then I went through and I read the books. People who do go low-carb, there's something Atkins diet aficionados call the induction flu. As your body shifts its metabolism over from burning carbs to burning fat, you can feel kind of down for a week or two. You feel kind of low energy. You can improve that by taking bouillon because you need the salt. What happens is you lose fluid and electrolytes and you need the salt to kind of get your fluids back up to get you through the shift in your metabolism. But we talked about this, I believe, losing the fluid and losing the out of your body is actually good. That's why your blood pressure goes away. One of the number one prescribed blood pressure drugs in the United States is a diuretic. Diuretics make you urinate more fluid, pass the fluid. You can get rid of the diuretic by just cutting the carbs out. Okay, so the question was, are you telling me, the question was earlier, if I eat butter all the time, isn't that going to clog my arteries? That was your question. So these are all the risk factors for atherosclerosis, heart attack, and stroke. Okay? And I'm going to show you the ones that are improved on a low carbohydrate, high fat diet. Diabetes, gone. Hypertension, gone. Dyslipidemia, gone. Obesity, gone. All these inflammatory markers, chronic inflammation, inflammatory CRP, fibrinogen, those are all related. By cutting the wheat out and decreasing the glycosylation of your proteins, those all improve. Lipoprotein A improves. Metabolic syndrome, gone. Hypertension, gone. Diabetes, gone. Low HDL cholesterol, major risk factors. Low HDL cholesterol, gone. Hypertriglyceridemia, gone. Obesity, gone. I didn't mark out hypercholesterolemia because your total cholesterol number may or may not change. And we could do a whole discussion on cholesterol, and I'll tell you that basically, you should read the book Wheat Belly, and he discusses small, dense LDL is atherogenic. Large, fluffy LDL is not atherogenic. You can get an NMR lipoprotein profile where they measure the size of your LDL to know whether or not the type of the cholesterol you have is the small LDL or the large LDL. But the actual LDL number does not matter. All of these things improved on a low carbohydrate diet. And all these things improved by cutting the breads out and eating a ton of butter. So take action today, cut the killer carbs, divorce the wheat and sugar, eat real food and more healthy fats. And really embrace your body. Like Dr. Helton said, you were born to health. I mean, the truth is that your body is perfect right now, just as it is, right as you sit in the chair. The only thing you have to do to achieve and maintain ideal health, your ideal level of health, is feed your body fuel that it understands. Your body doesn't understand sugar, processed refined carbohydrates, and cereal grains. Yes, ma'am.
Just a question. Weenies, lunch meat, where do they fall?
I eat lots of, you should watch the presentation from last year. There are a lot of hot dogs in there. And this one lady, she raised her hand, she said, "Why do you eat so many processed wieners?" And I said, well, at that point we did eat a lot. For weenies and lunch meat, for things like hot dogs, you should get hot dogs that are nitrate and nitrite free. I don't have a problem with processed meats. I don't have an issue with processed meats. But nitrate and nitrite free. We'll get you, is it okay? Do you have a few minutes? We're running behind. That's my fault. I want you to reprogram your subconscious, because we've been programmed for 30 years of fat phobia and the idea that heart-healthy whole grains are good for your body. And that's what the meditations that are found on that CD, that's what they're for. You can download the meditations onto your phone from the website, or you can listen to them off of that CD. And what the CD does, there are a total of 4 meditations. And you're supposed to listen to the first meditation every night for 3 weeks. The second meditation every night for 3 weeks. The third every night for 3 weeks. And then the fourth every night for 3 weeks, for a total of 12 weeks. It takes 3 weeks to make a change in your subconscious mind. And by listening to the meditations, you're going to erase the fear of the fat program. You're going to replace it with the eat more healthy fat program. Actually, scientists have discovered the location of the whole grains are healthy program. It's right here. And if you listen to the meditation, it will erase it. It's not really the location, but you get the idea. If you listen to the meditations, the fear of the fat and cholesterol program gets erased. Eat more carbs, eat less fat gets erased. And eat the food pyramid gets erased. But the good news is it doesn't leave your mind blank. It doesn't leave you with a blank mind. The whole grains are healthy gets replaced with get healthier with less grains. And up here, the body looks better on fat and cholesterol. Eat the food pyramid gets replaced with eat real food. And eat more carbs and less fat gets replaced with the cut the Killer Carbs program. And so the whole idea of the meditations is to, let's say, hey, you've got the idea, I'm kind of convinced, I want to try it, what do I do? Be sure to do the meditations, because the meditations are going to help change your subconscious programming. When you walk, you don't think about which foot to put forward first. You just go. You just have to know where to go, and your subconscious takes care of the whole process of walking from here to there. When you first start trying to ride a bike, riding a bike is difficult until you know how. And then riding a bike is as easy as riding a bike, right? Because your subconscious runs the bike riding program. You don't even have to think about it. You just get on the bike. And that's the deal, is you want to erase the fear of the fat program, fear of the butter program, and just replace it with the eat more healthy fats and less carbs. Different ways to reprogram your subconscious. The first thing I recommend you do is do the meditations for 3 months. The 2013 seminar video is it's a full 6 hours on similar topics, but different than what we've done today. There's also the audiobook version. You can take it with you. A reading list of books, which you have in your handout, and suggested videos. And will it work for you? There's only one way to know. You've got to try it. Just do it for 12 weeks, 3 months, and be the judge by your own results. Now I'd like to introduce Dr. Mark Hall. He's a pediatrician, a medical doctor here in town, and he's going to speak for a few minutes about his experience when he cut the wheat out of his diet and the way that it transformed his life. Dr. Hall.
Well, I am a pediatrician, and all of the benefits were unexpected. I didn't go wheat-free to improve my blood pressure. About a year ago, maybe, I've known Justin for a long time, and I was at the farmer's market, and I was talking to him. We had a very short conversation and didn't really have time to talk much, and he brought up that his family was not eating wheat. First I had heard of anything like that, actually, and I thought it was kind of odd, and I didn't get to ask him questions to clarify anything, and I remember going away thinking, Justin doesn't seem like the crazy kind of type that the whole family would stop eating wheat. Well, then I heard more about it in various circumstances and ended up having supper with a couple of friends, and was introduced to a family practice doctor in town who the cornerstone of his practice is nutrition and this, getting rid of grains and stuff. And so I had a long conversation with him, and then that prompted me to read Wheat Belly and some other things, and just kept reading, and I wasn't overweight that I needed to. Once I hit my mid-30s, the metabolic party was over. I never had an ounce of fat on me, but then it was, by those years, 15 to 20 pounds, and it was hard to get rid of, and once in a while I'd get rid of it, but most of the time it was there. But I wasn't overly concerned about it. But after reading this stuff, I just thought, wheat, this is bad. Modern wheat is bad stuff. It causes inflammation, and I may not have any effects from it that I can tell now, but, coronary artery disease in my future and whatnot. So I thought, I'm just going to stop eating wheat. And about 6 weeks after that, I no longer had pain in my back that had been there for about 30 years. I had a car wreck. I wasn't seriously injured, but from that day forward, I had pain in my upper back every single day. Most days, I just knew it was there. Other days, it really bothered me, but every day, and it stopped. That initial injury, that inflammation had wanted to die down. My body had wanted to take care of it. But if you smash your thumb with a hammer, and then every day you keep knocking it against things, it's going to take a long time because you keep feeding that inflammation, and that's apparently what wheat was doing. And it went away, and it's gone today. High blood pressure, my dad had it, and so I wasn't real surprised a few years ago when my blood pressure was high and started medication. I was on an ACE inhibitor and 2 diuretics, and I took my blood pressure about 3 times a week, and a good day, it would be about 150 over 90, and other days, not that good. But I didn't want to take more medicine, so I guess I was taking my blood pressure that often, just willing it to go down, which didn't work. But once again, after 6 or 7 weeks of not eating wheat, when I started taking my blood pressure, it was getting lower and lower. And I don't know why I am such an idiot sometimes that I didn't make the connection for a couple of weeks, but it was in the lower 90s over lower 50s, and I thought, well, I better stop my medicine for now. And then realized the only thing I've done different is I'm not eating wheat. And my blood pressure today is still, 130 over 80, 120 over 70, and I'd cut way back on salt. I still don't go crazy on salt, but I don't have to watch it that closely anymore. And I became a believer and somewhat of an evangelist about wheat. I lost about 15 pounds. That's probably about how much I was over, and I'm happy with my weight now. I wasn't really trying. So I realized over the last year or so, as I've read other stuff related to food pyramid, where that came from, and fats and whatnot, I can't believe that we have all been deceived concerning what is good for us and what is bad for us. And part of the reason that this is changing is because of social media and the internet, that it can't be suppressed anymore. And I'm really happy about that. I've got chickens in my backyard. I've got about 8 chickens just right over here in Tech Terrace, middle of town. So I eat a lot of eggs, and at least 4 a day, bacon and eggs for breakfast. Sometimes 6 because I eat them in other things. And a few months ago, I went to see my family physician for something, and he was looking at my chart and he said, "It's been a while since we've done blood work on you." I don't think we've ever done it, actually, but and I was going to protest and just say I don't want to do it because I don't think it matters what your cholesterol is now. But I was curious, so we did. And I cook everything in butter or bacon grease, olive oil, coconut oil, but a lot of butter and a lot of fats. And my cholesterol was 150, and all the other numbers were perfect, just where you'd want them to be. And so I'm a believer. Even without my own personal experience in it, I would still be. I'm convinced. But But yeah, it makes a difference, and I feel better than I have in a long time. Just all those little, I expect to get aches and pains with aging, but maybe not as many as I did expect to have. As a physician, we've always, at least some of us have always understood that nutrition is important. It's the cornerstone. But when I talk to patients about it, I was just hoping they'd eat a little bit better. And now I have realized it's everything. I mean, you really are what you eat. And you cannot undervalue and underestimate the effects of what you eat on your health. It's astonishing, but fat doesn't cause heart disease. Inflammation causes heart disease, and yeah, people often say, I don't think I could, just stop eating wheat. It's not convenient sometimes. I can't pick up a sandwich, and I love pizza. You have to go out of your way to get gluten-free pizza crust, which is tolerable. Gluten-free bread isn't so much, but once you get it in your head, this is the way you do it. It's pretty easy to do. I mean, I just think that way now, and I don't have to deal with it every day, thinking, what am I going to eat? What am I not going to eat? It's just there's a lot of food out there that doesn't contain wheat and a lot of grains. And that's really about all I've got to say.
You had mentioned something this morning. One of the people in the audience had asked you a question about ADHD, and one of the people in the audience here had asked that question earlier. Would you mind to kind of discuss that or to mention that like you did this morning?
Yeah, I talked to the parents of my patients about this a lot. And when my blood pressure first went to normal, I talked about it even more. Just about every patient that came in, I'd grab them and tell them, you gotta stop eating wheat, stop feeding it to your kids. But a few of them have taken me up on it. I had one patient, a little 9-year-old boy who had terrible gastroesophageal reflux disease and a lot of pain. He was on maximum dosages of proton pump inhibitors, and I told his mom to have him stop eating grains, at least wheat. Just these have inflammatory effects. And I didn't see him again, but one of my colleagues did, and she came, and months later she came up to me and she said, I saw so-and-so, and that mom wanted me to tell you that he doesn't have any symptoms and he's off his medicine. And I've heard that about other patients with inflammatory bowel disease. I have 2 patients who the kids have ADHD, and I've got a lot of patients that have ADHD, but and I've talked to a lot of them about this, but 2 of them took me up on it and stopped giving their kids sweet, and definitely saw improvement. Still on medication, but medication doesn't cure ADHD or fix it. It just makes it more manageable. You still got to manage some of that, though, and change the way you behave to help your children, and much easier. The medication can do its job, and a lot less to deal with. I wish most kids were off those medications. I think that ADHD is, we've labeled it a disorder, but God made people with this range of personality and behavior, and God did not make children to sit for 8 hours a day paying attention to something. We want them to do that, so they've got a disorder if they can't, and I don't really like that, but anyway. Any other questions? Well, thanks for letting me come up here.
Can you just finish off the conference for us?
Sure.
So I asked Mark to come and talk, because part of it is that when you see all these positive results in other people, then you start to come to the realization like, yeah, maybe this could help me too. I'm sorry, give me one moment.
My face was fatter in that picture too. That was before I stopped eating wheat.
That's the before picture. You get to see the after in person. The audience saw me put this slide together for you for your introduction right before the conference started. There's always more to learn, and there's, like all the questions that people ask about different fats and different, does it have to be grass-fed beef and different things. I recommend you look up the School of the Domestic Arts in Lubbock if you're interested in cooking or gardening, clean eating, because they offer courses here in town, and they're not expensive courses. I think they cost like $5 or something to go to a course. And they're also a source for fermented foods and bone broth. And so look them up at either their Facebook page or their blog. And there's always more to learn. I'll tell you the story about the natural health market. And I think I've told Mark this story. I think every pediatrician should know this story. This is my daughter Olivia. You saw her come in earlier and me kind of walking around with her. So when Olivia was born, she had her stool was green, watery, greasy poop. It wasn't normal baby poop. And she had colic. She was a very colicky baby, always clenched up, crying and screaming for the first 4 months of her life. And my wife and I knew this wasn't normal, so we called the pediatrician. He said, send a stool sample. We spent 4 days trying to collect enough stool from the baby so we could send it in. And the lab said the stool was normal. But my wife and I, we'd had kids before, and we knew that green, watery poop was not normal for a baby. They're supposed to have yellow, seedy baby poop. So one of us thought, well, maybe she needs probiotics or something, and I don't remember whose idea it was, but we called the natural health market here in town. The lady who answered the phone said, oh, tell me the story, and I told her, and she said, well, was the baby born in C-section? And we said, yes, she was born in C-section. She said, oh yeah. She said, every baby who's born in C-section needs probiotics. Because the baby doesn't pass through the birth canal in birth, so they don't pick up any of the bacteria from the mother that's supposed to colonize their digestive tract. So we got the recommended probiotics from the lady at the natural health market. My father-in-law picked them up and brought them to our house. And in 2 days, the diarrhea, the colic, the screaming was gone. The baby was totally transformed. She made the first normal baby poop of her life in 4 months. So the point is that there's more things to your health for you to know, and call people at the Natural Health Market. They're 82nd and Quaker at 50th Street, just west of Memphis. And they can help you with some of those questions you might have about nutrients, probiotics, etc. Also, the discussion of omega-3 versus omega-6 fats. There's a book called Toxic Oil you can read. Small versus large LDL. One of the women had asked a question about, she said her LDL was like 101. LDL is what they usually call bad cholesterol. Said it was 101. What should she do about it? Number one, the number of LDL doesn't matter. It tends to matter whether they're small versus large. You can order an NMR lipoprotein profile. It costs $100. They'll do that test. Number two, in women, the higher their cholesterol is, the longer they live. So there's all of these women in the United States with slightly high cholesterol who are being placed on Lipitor to lower their cholesterol. But in population studies, the higher women's cholesterol is, the longer they live. Generally, in people with the lowest cholesterol, they tend to die of cancer. So Pick a book, watch a video, keep learning. I recommend vitamin D supplement for everyone. Americans are deficient in vitamin D. And how do you know how much vitamin D to take? Doctors routinely do vitamin D nowadays. Vitamin D level, the normal level might be something like 30 to 130. You don't want to be on the lower range of normal. You don't want to be 31. For optimal health, your vitamin D ought to be higher, closer towards the higher level of normal. Omega-3, which is fish oil, most Americans should take that because we're deficient in omega-3s in our diet, and a multivitamin. But a multivitamin is mainly for the trace elements. The soils that we use to grow our crops tend to be depleted of trace elements like selenium, manganese, and you'll get those from a good high-quality multivitamin. You can find some other written stuff and book recommendations at cutthekillercarbs.com. And this is a book, this is a movie you can watch on YouTube. It's free. It's called Fathead. And that's Tom Naughton, who did the video Science for Smart People. And Tom Naughton, in this movie, what he does is he eats fast food for every meal of the day, 3 meals a day, KFC, Taco Bell, McDonald's, and he loses weight. And he does it all by counting his carbohydrates. He eats less than 100 net carbs a day and eats fast food and loses weight. So the point is, can you eat fast food and still lose weight? Yes. Is it the healthiest thing for you? Probably not, because the meat is not the highest quality meat. The ingredients aren't that high quality, but you can do it. If you're thinking about stopping alcohol, there's a book called Alcohol Lied to Me, highly successful stop drinking book, highly successful stop smoking book. Alan Carr's Easy Way to Stop Smoking. And this Alzheimer's disease, what if there was a cure? We discussed that earlier. That's a lady, she's a physician. She treats her husband's Alzheimer's disease with coconut oil. Some doctors call Alzheimer's disease type 3 diabetes because the brain can't use sugar correctly. It's 4:33. Angie, do you want to say 5 minutes?
Sure.
Yeah. And so we'll probably do a total of, we'll probably close in the next 10 minutes or so. We'll give Angie a little 5 minutes. She's actually an experienced, she's read Jimmy Moore's book, Keto Clarity, and that's all about the ketogenic diet. So she's an expert on ketogenic diet. She works with Dr. Ben Edwards, and I'll let her just talk for about 5 minutes or so, share some key concepts.
Okay. I've also become convinced that this is the healthiest way to eat for me. I started working with Dr. Edwards in February, and I read Wheat Belly, and I cut out grains and sugar for the most part. All of a sudden I'm breathing harder now. And so I felt like I was relatively healthy. I didn't have that many health issues other than migraines that were too frequent, and I had a rash on both sides of my neck. So when I cut out the wheat, the rash went away, and I stopped having migraines. Hardly ever do I have a migraine anymore. So I was pretty happy with that, but I had put on about 15 pounds that I couldn't get rid of no matter what, even though I exercise and I do long distance cycling, and I still couldn't get this 15 pounds to budge. And it was kind of creeping up closer to 20, and I would talk to Dr. Ben about what to do, and I had tried a version of a diet that was a little bit low carb, but I probably ate too much protein and not enough healthy fat because I was so scared of fat, that fat would make me fat. I always thought I couldn't eat avocados and all that fattening stuff, it was just in my head that it would make me fat, and I thought I had to have carbs for my brain to work, I had to have carbs to work out, I wouldn't have energy if I didn't have carbs. It's just all these wrong mindsets. So I got an article from Dr. Pompa, actually, who is someone that Dr. Ben reads and recommends some of his literature, and it was about the ketogenic diet, which is very low carb, high fat. And I thought, that's interesting. And then my sister-in-law told me she got the same article and was telling me that might be a good way to lose a few pounds. And I thought, well, yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's interesting, I keep hearing about this. And then I went to work, and Dr. Ben said, hey, did you read the article about Dr. Pompa and the ketogenic diet? And I was like, yes, I did actually, and I thought that was really interesting, and I'm thinking I might try this. And then I go to work, and there's this little yellow flyer on my desk, cut the killer carbs for your seminar. So I thought, okay, I'm going to try this. But I had a bicycle ride coming up about just a little under 3 weeks away, And so I was kind of scared, but I thought, well, if I hurry up and do this aggressively, maybe I can switch to be a fat burner and get into ketosis before the bike ride. And I'll test to see if I'm in ketosis before the ride. If not, then I'll cave in and eat carbs. So it was kind of like an experiment. Well, I started losing weight that I had been trying to lose for over a year, and it wasn't even that hard. I'm eating more fat than I feel comfortable eating. It's more than I think I should eat, but every time I eat more, the scale would go down, and I've lost probably about 4.5 pounds, just a good solid, and you know, I'm just starting to feel a lot better and more comfortable. And the bike ride was coming up, and we actually, a few friends at work started doing it as well, and Dr. Ben had told me it was healthy, so I was okay with it. And we bought the little meter to test our ketones, so I tested before the bike ride, and I was actually in a good mid-range in ketosis, which means that I'm going to use fat for fuel instead of carbs, because there are no carbs. And so I thought, okay, I think I can do this bike ride. It was actually going to be 67 miles long, so I was concerned about it. And Dr. Ben said, yeah, if you're in mid-range ketosis, I think you can do it. So I did. The night before, everybody's eating pasta, and I'm, you know, and there's all this pressure too that you feel like you're supposed to eat pasta. So I feel like just everybody's staring at me when I say, I'll have chicken Alfredo over broccoli, and I don't want any pasta, and they're all like, what? And so, you know, it just is kind of like a stigma, like you're not eating carbs or you're doing another fad or whatever. But the next day when I had such a great ride and I just really felt better than I ever have, and just thought, you know, this really isn't that big of a deal. I didn't feel like it was, you know, that hard. And so then I was convinced, and I thought, you know, I don't need carbs. I can use fat for fuel, and I'll burn the fat that I have. And I realized I had been just chasing the carbs I was eating, I was burning, I was never tapping into my fat cells, I was a carb addict. So it just made me really happy that I can exercise without the carbs, I can feel better, I'm hardly ever hungry, which before I just was always, oh, it's been 3 hours, I have to eat, you know, work out, I'm always hungry or whatever, and I was kind of controlled by food, and I had a lot of cravings, and now I'm rarely hungry, I don't have the cravings, and I'm not controlled by food. If I'm busy and I can't get to lunch, I'm totally okay. You know, I don't get hangry or I want to really hurt someone. So I just feel like it's a much more relaxed lifestyle. I have a lot better digestion. I'm never bloated. I just feel like my stomach always feels good, and I always feel empty, even though I've eaten and I'm satisfied. I don't feel puffy and just full. I don't get sleepy after lunch. I mean, there's so many good benefits, and I'm just really sold on it. So, but you have to eat the healthy fats. You can't just lower the carbs and not get the fats, because your brain has to have some sort of fuel. So the fat has to be your fuel. So even though you're afraid to eat it all, you've got to just try it and eat the coconut oil and the butter, and try bulletproof coffee. It's amazing. And, you know, just make sure you're getting that fuel, because it really does work.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
What is bulletproof coffee?
Bulletproof coffee, you just put coconut oil and butter in it, you blend it so it emulsifies, and you can put flavored stevia, and it tastes like a latte.
Can you say that again?
You Google bulletproof coffee. Google bulletproof coffee. Yes, it's well, you can use medium chain. Well, anyway, you can use coconut oil, butter, and a sweetener like stevia. Or they sell this stuff called MCT oil, which is just more expensive. Coconut oil is 65% medium chain triglycerides. So then they can purify that down further, and it costs more. But I think you'll be fine with coconut oil. Yes,
So
ma'am.
when we go into ketosis, and how do we combat that, or?
Ketosis is not something, it's called nutritional ketosis is not something you combat.
You want it.
You want it. Diabetic ketoacidosis is a disease that can occur in diabetics. Type 1 diabetics. Diabetic ketoacidosis is deadly. Nutritional ketosis is the way that our ancestors lived 99% of their life, was in a state of nutritional ketosis. To close for the last couple of minutes, in medicine, for most diseases, we're taught you can either 1, suffer with the disease, or 2, take a medication. And the problem with taking a medication, there's 2 problems, is that For every disease, you end up on multiple medications. Like you might end up on 3 high blood pressure pills and 3 diabetes medications. And so you can my patients are 65 to 85 and they all have 15 meds. 15 prescription drugs they take every day. And number 2, you take those drugs lifelong. But what I'm here to tell you today is that there is a third choice. The third choice is that you can cut the killer carbs to reduce the incidence or control a lot of these medical problems. Weight problems, there's pills you can take, or you can cut the killer carbs. Diabetes, there's a ton of medication for diabetics. They come out with new injections every week, and that's, you know, like Dr. Helton said, the medicine that'll make you bleed from your eyeballs, you know, there's always a new medication, which, anyway, can have some horrible side effects, or you can cut the killer carbs, cut them out of your diet. For atherosclerosis leading to heart attack and stroke, you can take the pills, or you can cut the killer carbs. And we talked about on the LCHF diet, all of these risk factors for heart attack and stroke that are X'd out are reduced. High blood pressure, there are over 200 medications you can take, or you can just cut the killer carbs. It'll reduce your blood pressure. Polycystic ovarian syndrome, when young, healthy women can't get pregnant, they prescribe them metformin, which is a diabetes pill. For insulin, it's an insulin sensitizer. They have PCOS because they're insulin resistant from too many carbohydrates in their diet. So you can take the pills or you can cut the killer carbs. Alzheimer's disease and dementias, there are pills that you can take or you can cut the killer carbs. ADD, Dr. Hall mentioned that, you know, there are amphetamines that we can prescribe for our children, or we can try to cut the killer carbs, see if that improves the symptoms. Tons of medications for depression. There was a lady this morning in this morning session who said when she went gluten-free, her depression went away. The gluten kind of does something. Exorphins, they do something to your brain. Chronic asthma and allergies, we've seen, I've told you several stories about how they went away just by cutting the gluten, cutting the carbs. And the one I find the most irritable of all is irritable bowel syndrome. Because there were no irritable bowel syndrome commercials on TV 5 years ago, but now they're all over the TV. And so you can take the pills where they have to put this little asterisk. This was seen in animal studies, and the relevance to humans is not known. That has to do with the diagram. So you can take the pills where they don't exactly know why they work, or you can cut the killer carbs. Thank you. The comment form that's in the back, I'll ask everybody to please fill out the comment form so that the next time we do this, we can do it better. When we did it last year, some of the comments said, hey, it's too long, 6 hours is too long, so I made it 3. They said, you didn't show us any before and after pictures, so I showed the before and after pictures. They said, you're boring as dirt, so I asked, you know, Dr. Hall and my wife and Dr. Helton and some other people to come talk. So the comment forms really matter. I'll be happy to stand up here and just, anybody feel free to go right now, take off, and I'll be happy to answer some questions for about 5 minutes if you guys have any questions. Yes, sir.
You mentioned that the last year's seminar was somewhere.
Yes, last year's seminar is available in its entirety at this website, this cutthekillercarbs.com website. And you just click under, on the website, you click under free content. And on the free content, it has the entire seminar from last year. Yeah, if you'll just leave your comment cards right here on this table, that would be great. Any other questions before we close out?